Ann Novak here, career coach at the Career Center of the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Today I want to talk to you about salary negotiation, an oh so important topic and an oh so uncomfortable topic. For most people, thinking about negotiating their salary is very uncomfortable. And because of that, too many people don't do it. Do not fall into that trap. I've been there. I know it's no fun, but it's very important. And how to go about it and why it's so important is what I want to show you today. As a career coach, I have helped prepare lots and lots of people that were looking for salaries in the six-figure range down to hourly employees negotiating their hourly rate. So all is possible. Let's start and let's look at why it is so important to negotiate what you are paid. Let's look at this hypothetical situation. Chris and Fraser receive identical offers from the same company for $100,000 a year. Now, Chris negotiates a 7.4% higher starting salary of than $107,400 per year. Fraser accepts the $100,000 without negotiating. It is a good salary after all for most of us. Now let's say both stay with this company for 35 years and receive the identical 5% annual raise. Any guess what that little negotiation at the very, very beginning of their career, what difference that might make? Let's take a look. So if Chris retires at 65, Fraser would have to work an additional 8 years to be as wealthy as Chris. 8 years more to get to the same lifetime earnings, and all the difference is negotiating one time at the very beginning of the career. By the way, this example is taken from the book Jim Hopkinson, Salary Tutor. So is the next. Let's look at a similar scenario, also purely hypothetical. You start working at 21 and retire at 65. Your starting salary is $20,000 a year, and you get 5% raises each year. Your lifetime earnings will amount to about $3 million. If you negotiate 6% yearly raises, your lifetime earnings will be $4 million. So a 1% difference a year results in a $1 million difference over your lifetime. Now, obviously, both of these scenarios are hypothetical, but they serve to illustrate the importance of negotiating. Here we're just talking negotiating at one point, at the beginning of your career. But ideally, you will do this at each step of your career. Let's start at the very beginning and explain a little bit all the different factors that go into this great game of salary negotiation. Let's start off by talking about the role of HR, normally the first department you will be in contact with if you apply for a new job. Oh boy, no, I don't want to say that, oh, the HR people are the bad people keeping you from getting a job. Not at all. I know a lot of them. Actually, once upon a time, I was one of them, and they're usually really nice people. However, they are tasked with a certain role. And that role is they are the gatekeepers. So think about it. For very common occupations, let's say an administrative assistant, a well-known employer might well get 400, 500 applications for one job. So what does this poor HR person do? They have to whittle it down. They cannot devote much time to 500 applications. So often what they do is they use salary as a tool to screen you out. If you have ever filled out an online job application or read job ads, they often say, if it's an ad just asking you to send your resume, in your cover letter, state your desired salary. Or if it's an online job application, it will have a little field that says desired salary. So that's the reason they ask you this, because they can see right away If they have budgeted $50,000 per year for this position, but you put in as your desired salary $70,000, they know you're so far apart that they will not proceed with your application because chances are you wouldn't be happy there or you wouldn't accept the job in the first place. So why have them waste their time and your time going forward with looking at this application when they have 499 others? So at the very beginning of this process, the salary question is often used as a tool to screen you out. That's the reason why at the Career Center, we recommend when you fill out an online application and you come across this field, desired salary, if it is not a required field, leave it blank. Don't go there. Don't give them the ammunition to screen you out prematurely just because you might be off by some money that in the end you might very well come to agreement on. So, let's move into some of the ground rules of salary negotiation. Any guess what the number one ground rule is? It is so basic and so easy. You ask. It is so rare that you work in a job and you do a good job and your supervisor comes along and pats you on the back and says, "Jane, you have done a wonderful job for the last 3 years. Let us offer you a salary increase." Yes, it does happen once in a while, but usually it does not. If you feel you deserve a raise, or if you feel you deserve a higher salary at a new job you're applying for, you always have to ask. It is very rarely offered. You have to ask. You have to be the proactive person in this situation. Number 2 rule of salary negotiation. Let's take a look at this little clip of my dear colleagues, Cynthia and Lynette.
Okay, if we decide that you're the right person for the job, what are your salary requirements?
Oh, I'm not sure. What do you usually pay for this kind of position?
Wow. Did Lynette do a good job here? Not really, right? Can you guess the number 2 rule of salary negotiation? Be prepared. She was entirely unprepared for the question. That is a situation you never want to be caught in. So our number 2 ground rule of salary negotiation, and I cannot stress this enough, you have to be extremely prepared. Let's see what all goes into this being prepared. Ideally, you want to know what salary ranges an employer in a certain industry in your region pays. Salaries change from region to region. So you want to know this industry in your region. What are the ranges they pay for your role? You need to set your own goals. This is really, really important. You need to know what is the minimum salary you can work for. There is no use in you applying for your dream job and maybe you get offered that dream job. And you have done your budget and you know the minimum salary you need to have is $60,000 a year. But this dream job, let's say it's a small organization and they have stretched their budget. All they can offer you is $50,000. You cannot take the job, even though it is your dream job, because you have done the math. You need $60,000 to pay your bills. They can only offer $50,000. So it's very, very important to know what your minimum is. In this example, you will have to walk away. You also want to know what is your desired salary and what is your, yes, jackpot salary. Also, what are your desired benefits? They factor into this discussion just as well. You need to research this well. And ideally, you will do some networking, because who will be the best sources for you to get this knowledge? Right, people that already work in this industry, or even better, for your desired employer. They will be the best sources for you. Factors to consider, factors that go into how companies come up with their salary bands and what goes into it for yourself, everything that you bring to the table that you need to be aware of. Let's take a look. Number of years of experience. The more experience you have, usually, the higher salary you can demand. Special skills you bring to the table, special relevant to this job skills you bring to the table can make you more marketable. Do you have management or supervisory experience? How many people did you manage or supervise? Did you manage a team of 10 or a business unit of 300? That will make a huge difference in the salary you can demand, in your worth, in your potential worth to a company. The degrees or certifications you hold. Let's say you're in accounting. Now you're getting CPA certification. All of a sudden, you will be worth much more to your company and can ask for more money. Are you looking for a job in a booming industry or in an industry that's on the decline? Chances are, booming industry can pay more than an industry that is going downhill. Size of the company. Most times, large companies will pay more for the same role than small local companies. And location. Let's say you're looking for a job at a large national corporation and you're in Baton Rouge, but you have a friend that works for that same company in New York City in the same role. Don't go in to the salary negotiation in Baton Rouge demanding the salary that your friend in the same role makes in New York City. They will pay differently because of cost of living, market conditions, and so on. So all these are factors that go into what a good salary is for this role, what you can demand, and probably what you're worth to a company. We mentioned research. It takes a lot of research to come up with a good range. Here are some websites that you can use to help you to do this. Now, let's move on to the number 3 rule of salary negotiation, and let's take another look at Cynthia and Lynette.
If we decide that you're the right person for the job, what salary are you looking for?
Well, based on the research that I've done, for someone with my education and experience, about $50,000 a year seems fair.
This was much better, wasn't it? She was very prepared this time. Great. But there was still one little thing. Very often, when we talk about negotiations in general, we say that whoever says a number first loses. She said a number. Why do we think about it that way? Think about it as bargaining chips. Let's think about it. So I'm the HR person and I ask you for your desired salary. Now I have a range in mind that I have budgeted for this position. And let's say this range is between $50,000 and $70,000. That's what I'm willing and able to pay for the right person. I'm interviewing Lynette, and she tells me she wants $50,000. And I'm just going, yes, because here I am, I'm getting this very qualified person that I would love to hire, and she just tells me $50,000 is all she wants. Now, I can keep $20,000. I was willing to offer up to $70,000, but it's not necessary because she told me right away, $50,000 she would be happy with. Now, if I wanted to make her happy, I would offer her, I'd say, yeah, we can pay $52,000. That would probably make her happy because she would get more than she asked for. It makes me happy. I just saved $18,000 that I can use somewhere else in my budget. So you just gave away your bargaining chip when you said a number first. Because now I will not offer you 60, 65, or 70 because I know you'll be happy with 50. And that's why we say if you throw out a number first, you lose. Let's see what we can do about this situation, how you can evade this question. First scenario. If salary comes up very early in the interview process, let's see during the phone screening or an initial interview, that is not the place to discuss or negotiate salary. Salary and benefits are something you negotiate at the very end when you know you're either their chosen candidate or you're among the final two. So when they ask you during your first interviews, in the first steps, you already know again they use it as a tool to screen people out or to gauge, do they fall into our range or do they fall out? Might they be happy here with what we can pay them? So at this early stage, you definitely don't want to get into this discussion. What can you do? You can say, I think I would like to discuss salary after we have both determined that I'm a good fit for the job. So you're trying to put it off. Or, once we both determine I'm a good fit for the job, I'm sure we will come to an agreement on compensation. Again, you're trying to push it away. You're trying to avoid giving them an answer. Ideally, they buy it and move on. Now, maybe if they're very experienced, they will come right back at you and say, oh, I'm sure we can come to an agreement, but I need to know a number now. What do you do then? Honestly, that depends on your comfort level. Are you comfortable keeping this game going? Or do you say, nah, I tried once, I'm going to say a number now. So that really depends on you, and it probably depends on practice. Practice this. The more you do it, the more comfortable you will get with a situation like this. Next scenario. Now you know you're among the final two candidates. After a few rounds of interviewing, now is actually the time to discuss salary. Yet you still don't want to throw out the first number. Let's see what you could do. You could say, well, in preparing for this interview, I did some homework and found out the general range for this position, but it varied widely by company. What type of range did you have budgeted for this position? So again, you're trying for them to throw out the first number. So let's just play along. Let's suppose your interview partner goes for this and say, well, our range for this position is between 100 and 120,000. Now, since you are prepared, because you did your own math about what's the minimum, what's the desired, and what's the slam dunk, you know where in the 100 to 120,000 your numbers fall. So if really you did the research and you know you're worth close to the 120,000 and that's where you want to fall, now you can come back and say, oh, wonderful, I think we can come to an agreement on that. But if you take a look at my qualification with my supervisory experience, with my leading a team through a transition like the one you're facing, I know I'm definitely worth 120,000. That would be a good salary we can come to an agreement on. So then you give them your case of why you're worth more. Something else you could say. Well, I've been freelancing for a while, so it's hard to extrapolate, and I was wondering what type of range you had in mind for the job. Of course, this only works if you've actually been freelancing. But with many people that look for a job for a while, for a few months, that's often what people do in the meantime. Or, especially pertinent to the economy right now, I know with the recent economy, salary ranges have changed. So what do you have in mind? So you see, all of these wordings go towards, hey, I really don't want to tell you my range. I'm waiting for you to throw out your numbers first. All of these wordings, again, come from this book. I've mentioned it before, so I'm going to hold it into the camera now. It's a nice little book that I absolutely recommend you take a look at if you're new to the topic of salary negotiation. So now we have discussed that really you shouldn't throw out a number first. Yes, I still stand by it, but I want to take you on a little detour now. Let's talk about the anchoring effect. What is that? So the anchor effect affects the negotiator's judgment of value. So the idea is, now we're actually going into the opposite, whoever says a number anchors the discussion. So if I throw out a number, let's say of 70,000, and now the interviewer has this 70,000 stuck in their mind. So anything they think about now is going to revolve around the 70,000. So it means you have just anchored our discussion. Research suggests and studies suggest that now this interviewer is unlikely to offer you 50 because those 70,000 have been thrown out there, that it's the stake in the ground that everything revolves around. So basically this means, in absolute opposition to what we have just said, in this scenario, you would actually throw out a number first and it would be to your benefit. Yes, this can work, but if you want to use this to your advantage, you will have to make an offer first, as we just learned. You only do this, and really only do this, if you have a lot of information about the situation. If you have a very good gauge of what the salary range for this position, for this industry, for your location is, and for your value to the company. If you're well prepared, well informed, and comfortable, go ahead, use the anchoring effect to your advantage. If all of this is not you, you might want to step back. Another funny side effect that researchers have found is this, that anchors work best if the numbers are very precise. So, throwing out a salary of, I think I'm worth $70,550 per year is shown to know better than saying, I'd like a salary of $70,000. I cannot tell you why that is so right now. I would have to look at the studies, but that is what the studies show. Now, let's move back. Let's leave our detour into our final scenario. You are it. You are the chosen candidate, and they have made you an offer. What should you do now? They have made you an offer. You actually like the offer. It's a good offer. But you always try to make a counteroffer. There are studies out there that say 84% of employers expect you to make a counteroffer. Also important, I mentioned benefits at the very beginning of this. Now we're coming back to it. Sometimes a company really cannot move on salary. They just cannot offer you more. Don't despair. There are other things you can negotiate on. Here's a list. You can negotiate bonus. It can be a sign-on bonus. It can be a bonus based on performance. It can be different timelines, maybe after 3 months, maybe after 6 months, if you hit certain performance parameters. Often salary and bonus come out of different budget pots. So even though they can't move on salary, often they can move on bonus. Benefits. Maybe instead of them paying 50% of your health insurance, maybe they can pay 70 or 80 or 90 or 100. Absolutely negotiable. Vacation days. Maybe instead of 7, you'd like 14. Absolutely. Ask for it. Car allowance, check allowance. Performance and salary review after a shorter period of time than they suggest. That is something else you can try. So maybe their standard performance and salary review is after the first year. So that means you wouldn't be eligible for a raise for a whole year. You can try and negotiate a salary and performance review after 6 months. And if it's satisfactory, now maybe you're eligible for a salary raise after 6 months instead of a year. Now you have an idea how salary negotiation works. Go ahead, try it. It is so worth it. And stay tuned for our follow-up presentations on salary negotiation for women. It's a whole different ballgame. And for how to ask about a raise and promotion. Good luck.